Welcome everybody back to N90X. I have an exciting proposal for a project that I'm in the middle of. I wanted to discuss it with you, get some feedback for those of you who are hip to the MPX platform. Now, I've been buying MPX 5500s and 7500s on eBay. I already have my stash. I also got a 8000 series on eBay. All of them for, let's say, $100 or less, not including shipping. So I've got multiple copies of these devices here. My plan, as you saw in the previous video, was to turn the MPX platform into a Hackintosh, which I was able to achieve with the MPX platform with an upgraded CPU. I did not try with the built-in E5205. I actually already upgraded it to a Intel Xeon L5410, which is the processor in the 7500. Now, for whatever reason, my attempts to turn the native MPX 7500 into a Hackintosh have thus far been unsuccessful, and I can't say I've done an exhaustive process. It's just that I started with the 5500 and it's working. But I believe there are some BIOS differences that may account for the reason. But we'll get into that later. With this project, the 9500, just as a background, the 9500 is simply the same thing as a 7500, just with a license key upgrade. The platform 7500 and 5500 are almost identical, but there are some key differences which I want to talk about. Now, since I have both platforms, my plan is to physically remove the hardware that's in the 7500 and put it into the 5500, thus upgrading the 5500 to the 7500 level from a hardware standpoint, not including the power supplies, which we'll get into a little bit later. So that's what I'm actually trying to do, is turn the 5500 into a 7500. So let's look at what the process is looking like as right now, and I'd like to get your feedback on it, how it's looking right now to make this happen. So obviously, I've already done the first step. I've upgraded the MPX 5500 from a dual-core Xeon to a quad-core Xeon. Now, one thing to note is that by doing that, I actually am reducing the power consumption by 15 watts. Kind of amazing. Going from 2 to 4 cores, but actually reducing the power consumption. That's pretty amazing. And getting a faster clock speed. The other difference is we're going from 4 gigabytes of RAM to 8 gigabytes of RAM. Not a big deal. Just doubling the RAM memory. The third item is I'm going to obviously pull the boards that are in the 7500, their PCIe boards, and replace them into the 5500, therefore upgrading the 5500 to the 7500 level of hardware. Now, you'll see that at least between the 55 and the 7500, at least theoretically, if I can get the NetScaler to identify as a 7500, I should double my throughput, double my HTTP requests per second, as well as SSL track transactions per second, as well as SSL throughput, right? I mean, everything basically would be doubled. And obviously, I have both of these platforms. I've been able to acquire multiple copies of the 5500 and the 7500, as well as a very surprised 8000 series MPX, which is a completely different hardware platform. But I've been able to acquire these all for, let's say, $100 or less on eBay, not including shipping. So it is something that is possible to get your hands on these as well. Please note that these platforms are going end of life next year in around September, I think it is, or October of 2018. Definitely next year in 2018, these are going end of life. So we probably will see large quantities of these on the market. Now they are about 10 years old in terms of the technology, right? I think the processors are from 2007 or 2008. So roughly 9-10 years old technology, but still very, very powerful and very, very reliable and doable, usable. The only big difference between these platforms, obviously besides the hardware changes, is the power supply. I'm not going to pull the 7500 power supply and put it in the 5500. Now, the 7500 has dual power supplies, obviously single plus an optional, and the difference is that those are 450 watt power supplies versus 300 watt power supply, a single and not hot swappable or whatever power supply on the MPX 5500. That may or may not be an issue. Now, the fact that I'm going down 15 watts on the processor, going up a little bit with the memory, which is probably negligible, going up a little bit on the SSL card, which we'll get into, that's a difference there, and maybe going up a little bit with the network boards that are plugged in, but I don't see them drawing a lot of power to make a significant difference, but we're going to find out. This is my approach. They're in the same basic case, slightly different cases. They weigh about the same. Everything else is about the same. Here are the differences to consider that I've already checked into. I've gone onto both motherboards. I've sucked the BIOSes. I've done a diff on them. The BIOSes are different. So I will have to flash the 5500 with the BIOS that I pulled off the 7500. That's going to be a necessity. Obviously, the SSL cards or the crypto cards that are the cadmium cards that is in the 7500. Of course, I will replace the cadmium card that's in the 5500. The network cards, as I mentioned, I will replace. The power supplies, I will not. That's the only sort of wild card. Will 300 watts be enough? And in real talk, I don't actually need all of this, the Ethernet ports. I don't need this, the SFPs. I'm not using SFPs. I'm not using copper or fiber. So I don't really need that. I can do without it. And I don't think there will be any issues, but we'll see. I guess we'll have to see. It looks like I could go with this four port that came with the 5500 and only put in this 8 port that's copper. Then I'd have 12 ports. That may be a way to get around that, and that actually is an option. That is a configuration option. The one that I have actually comes with 4 of these SFPs, which I don't really need, and I really don't even need the extra 8 ports. But I don't know if that's going to be a make it or break it scenario. I don't know if the operating system is looking for that. I don't think so, but we're going to find out. Now, so those are the issues. BIOS definitely has to going to be flashed, moving everything over. What do you think about this? For those of you who are NetScaler people who maybe are using the NetScaler, has anyone done this? Am I the first? Has anyone tried to do this? Any caveats? Definitely you're not going to get any assistance from the manufacturer, that's for sure. And you probably won't get any assistance from the various component makers, as I've tried. So this is the plan to upgrade physically and software-wise the MPX 5500 to an MPX 7500. Please stay tuned as I get back to you with an update as to the progress. This has been N90X. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video. Be sure to comment, rate, and subscribe if you're new to this channel.